The serene horizon shook violently as another blast hit its failing shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge, bathing the crystalline crew in pulses of red. "Shields at 12%, announced Navigator Vril, his transparent body flickering, with patterns of worried blue light. "We cannot withstand another direct hit." Commander Alara Lux rushed between control stations, her crystalline form gleaming with determination despite the cracks forming along one arm. The Luminari diplomatic vessel had been ambushed by Krell Dominion warships while traveling through what should have been neutral space. The peaceful Luminari, who had never developed weapons of war, were defenseless against the ruthless arthropoid conquerors. "Prepare the quantum beacon," Alara ordered, her voice calm despite the chaos. "We must alert the Zephyrian Concordat." The Luminari communications officer's body pulsed with nervous light patterns. "The main array is damaged, Commander. I cannot guarantee message integrity." "We have no choice," Alara replied. "Send the distress call with our coordinates and all data we have on the Krell fleet. The Zephyrians are our only hope." As the communications officer worked frantically to align the damaged quantum beacon, the ship rocked with another hit. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks, and the lighting systems failed, leaving only the natural glow of the Luminari bodies, illuminating the bridge. "Shields critical," shouted Navigator Vril. Alara steadied herself against a console. "Send the message now." The communications officer pressed his crystalline hands against the transmission panel. "Broadcasting distress, signal on Zephyrian emergency channel." At that exact moment, another blast hit the serene horizon, causing a catastrophic power surge through the communications array. The quantum beacon flickered, its carefully calibrated frequency shifting drastically as the message shot into the depths of space, traveling in an entirely different direction than intended. "Message sent," the officer reported, his light patterns dimming with exhaustion. "But Commander, there was a frequency shift during transmission. I cannot confirm." The signal reached the Zephyrian fleet. Alara's light patterns dimmed. "Then we must hope someone receives our call for help." Lieutenant Commander Wei Chen yawned as he monitored the deep space sensors at Earth's listening post on Europa. His 6-month rotation was ending tomorrow, and the hours seemed to crawl by. Humanity had established this outpost after their first contact with alien life decades ago, but most days brought nothing but empty static from the void. "Another exciting day staring at nothing," Wei muttered to himself, taking a sip of synthetic coffee. A sudden beep from his console interrupted his boredom. Wei set down his mug and checked the incoming signal. At first, it appeared to be just random noise, likely cosmic interference or a sensor glitch. He was about to dismiss it when something caught his eye. The static wasn't random. There was a pattern buried in the chaos. Wei adjusted the reception parameters, isolating frequency bands and enhancing the signal. As he worked, the patterns became clearer. This wasn't natural cosmic background radiation. This was a message. "Computer, run all known decryption protocols on this signal," Wei commanded, suddenly alert. "Working," the computer responded. "Signal contains unknown encoding methods, partial decryption possible." Wei's fingers flew across the interface. "Show me what you can decrypt." The screen filled with fragmented data, coordinates, technical, specifications of unknown vessels, and broken pieces of a message that unmistakably contained the universal distress marker used by multiple spacefaring civilizations. Wei hit the emergency communications button. "Europa Station to UDF Command. Priority Alpha. I'm receiving an alien distress signal from deep space, transmitting data now." Admiral Helena Reyes stood at the head of the conference table in the United Defense Force headquarters, beneath the Pacific Ocean. The holographic displays showed the partial message that Europa Station had received, along with analyses from Earth's top xenolinguists and military strategists. "So what we know is that someone out there is under attack," Admiral Reyes summarized, her weathered face serious under her silver-streaked hair. "We have rough coordinates, some technical data, on the attacking ships and a clear distress marker." General Williams frowned. "What we don't know is who sent it, whether it was meant for us or if this is some kind of trap." "The signal wasn't directed at Earth specifically," confirmed Dr. Patel, the lead xenolinguist. Based on the transmission method, it appears the message was meant for another recipient entirely and reached us by accident. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth had maintained a careful position in galactic politics since first contact, neither seeking conflicts nor backing down from them. "We don't have enough information to justify a military response," stated Defense Secretary Alvarez from her video link. "The political risks of interfering in an unknown conflict are too great." Admiral Reyes straightened her uniform and looked around the table. Her voice, when she spoke, carried the weight of 40 years of military service. "With respect, Madam Secretary, this isn't about politics. This is about who we are as a species." She gestured to the ancient naval flags displayed on the wall. "Since our earliest days at sea, humanity has lived by one universal code. When someone sends a distress call, you respond. Period." She walked to the holographic display and enlarged the distress marker portion of the signal. "Someone out there is fighting for their lives right now. They didn't call us specifically, but we're the ones who heard them. What does it say about humanity if we simply ignore a cry for help?" General Williams nodded slowly. "The Admiral has a point. This is exactly the kind of situation the Rapid Response Fleet was designed for." Defense Secretary Alvarez sighed. "The President has authorized your discretion in this matter, Admiral. But be aware, if this goes badly, the political fallout will be severe." Admiral Reyes allowed herself a small smile. "Noted, Madam Secretary." She turned to her officers. "Prepare. The fleet. The Thunderchild will lead the response force. We launch in 6 hours." As the UDF officers filed out to prepare for the mission, Dr. Patel approached Admiral Reyes privately. "Admiral, there's something else you should know about the signal." She lowered her voice. "Based on the environmental data embedded in the transmission, both the sender and the attackers appear to be from what we would classify as paradise worlds. Low gravity, minimal radiation, stable climate. They evolved in conditions that would be considered ideal by human standards." The Admiral raised an eyebrow. And they likely have no concept of what it means to face creatures evolved on a death world like Earth." Dr. Patel's expression was serious. "Whatever they're expecting for help, it certainly isn't us." Admiral Reyes nodded slowly, understanding the implications. Humanity had already discovered that their evolutionary path on Earth, with its high gravity, radiation, extreme climates, and fierce competition, had made them uniquely resilient among known species. "Well," Admiral Reyes said quietly, "they're about to learn what happens when you send an SOS to the wrong species." She looked out the viewport at the massive shape of the Thunderchild docked in the underwater bay. "Deathworlders are coming to help." The massive engines of the UDF dreadnought Thunderchild hummed with power as it led the human response fleet toward the coordinates extracted from the alien distress signal. 6 additional warships flanked the flagship, their sleek hulls designed to withstand the harshest conditions space could offer. On the bridge, Admiral Helena Reyes studied the tactical display. Her weathered face reflected the blue glow of holographic star charts marking their destination, a remote sector far from Earth's usual patrol routes. "Time to arrival?" she asked. 4 hours until we exit FTL at the distress coordinates, Admiral," replied Lieutenant Santos, the navigator. "All ships report systems operating at optimal capacity." Admiral Reyes nodded. "Call the command staff to the briefing room. We need to prepare for all possibilities." In the Thunderchild's main briefing room, senior officers gathered around the conference table. Admiral Reyes stood at the head, with tactical displays illuminating the wall behind her. "What we know is limited," she began. "An unknown species sent a distress call while under attack from another unknown species. We have approximate technical specifications of both their vessels, but nothing about the beings themselves." Dr. Omar Al-Farsi, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, cleared his throat. The middle-aged scientist with a neatly trimmed beard tapped his tablet, bringing up new data on the main display. "Actually, Admiral, we can make some educated guesses based on the environmental data embedded in the transmission." Dr. Al-Farsi's eyes gleamed with scientific curiosity. Both species appear to have evolved in what we would classify as paradise environments: low gravity, minimal radiation, stable climates with narrow temperature ranges. Captain Amara Okafor, commander of the Marine contingent, leaned forward. "What exactly does that mean for us tactically, Doctor?" Dr. Al-Farsi smiled. "It means, Captain, that they have likely never encountered anything like humans before." He stood and began to pace, warming to his subject. "Most of you know that Earth is classified as a death world by xenobiological standards. Our gravity is crushing. Our radiation levels are considered hazardous, and our climate swings between extremes that would kill most known spacefaring species." He brought up an anatomical comparison on screen, showing a human silhouette beside, approximations of the two alien species based on their ship designs and environmental data. These paradise-evolved species likely have lighter bone structures, minimal muscle mass by our standards, and little resistance to radiation or environmental stress. Dr. Al-Farsi gestured to the human figure. "We, on the other hand, evolved in conditions that forced us to develop dense musculature, high-efficiency respiratory and circulatory systems, strong skeletal structures, and remarkable resistance to radiation and toxins." Admiral Reyes considered this information. "So in physical terms, we're tanks and they're sports cars?" "An apt analogy, Admiral," Dr. Al-Farsi confirmed. "What's merely uncomfortable for us would likely be lethal for them. The average human could probably match the strength of several individuals from either species." Lieutenant Commander Takashi Yamamoto, the chief engineer, whistled. "No wonder their ships look so delicate in the schematics we extracted. They've never needed to build for the kind of durability we take for granted." Admiral Reyes turned to her tactical officer. "Update our combat protocols. If we engage the hostile species, we need to be careful not to use excessive force, and if we board any vessels, our people need to understand how fragile these beings might be." "Yes, Admiral," the tactical officer responded. "One more thing," Dr. Al-Farsi added. "Psychologically, we might appear quite alien to them. Earth's competitive evolutionary environment created in humans a combination that may be unique. Predatory capabilities paired with strong cooperative instincts and empathy. We're simultaneously more dangerous and more altruistic than many species can comprehend." Admiral Reyes absorbed this information, then addressed the room with determination in her eyes. "We're going into an unknown situation between unknown species. Our priority remains the same: respond to the distress call, render assistance, and protect the innocent. But let's remember that to these beings, we might seem as alien as they do to us." She stood straighter. "Dismissed. Return to your stations and prepare for arrival." Meanwhile, aboard the Krell prison transport, Commander Alara Lux and the surviving Luminari diplomats huddled in a containment cell. The transparent crystalline beings dimmed their natural bioluminescence to conserve energy, their forms showing cracks and damage from rough handling by their captors. The cell door slid open, and War Master Vorthak entered. The Krell officer's arthropoid form towered over the seated Luminari, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh lights. 4. Compound eyes studied the prisoners while his mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among his kind. "Your signal failed," Vorthak stated, his translated voice buzzing through his vocoder. "Our jamming field prevented it from reaching your Zephyrian allies." Ilara struggled to her feet, her damaged form sending painful light patterns across her body. "You cannot be certain of that, War Master." "We are certain," Vorthak responded, mandibles twitching. "Our sensors detected your transmission's trajectory. It went nowhere near Zephyrian space. Even if by some miracle it reached another system, no one would risk confronting the Krell Dominion." A junior Krell officer hurried into the cell, his posture showing agitation. "War Master, unknown vessels have entered the system, multiple signatures approaching rapidly." Vorthak's compound eyes widened. "Impossible. Display their configuration." A holographic image appeared, showing ships unlike any the Krell had encountered, sleek yet sturdy with visible weapon ports and propulsion systems designed for maneuverability and power, rather than the delicate efficiency typical of most spacefaring. Races. What species is this? Vorthak demanded. Unknown, War Master, the junior officer replied. Their design philosophy doesn't match any in our database. Ilara felt a surge of hope pulse through her crystalline form. Someone had received their call after all. The Krell vessel's sensors chimed with an incoming transmission. The War Master hesitated, then nodded to accept it. A flat view screen descended from the ceiling. It displayed a being unlike any the Luminari or Krell had seen before. A solid, opaque creature with a hardened exterior that wasn't an exoskeleton, bilateral symmetry, and strange, soft features arranged around sensory organs. This is Admiral Helena Reyes of the United Defense Force vessel Thunderchild, representing Earth and humanity, the creature stated in a translated voice that sounded strangely confident. We received a distress call from this sector and have come to render assistance. Vorthak's mandibles clicked rapidly in confusion. Earth? Humanity? Your species is unknown to us. This conflict does not concern you. The human's expression hardened in a way that made even Ilara uncomfortable. When we receive a distress call, it becomes our concern. Release your prisoners and withdraw from this sector immediately. The War Master's posture became aggressive. The Krell Dominion does not take orders from unknown species. You have made a grave mistake coming here. The human made a strange gesture with her mouth that exposed bone-like structures, an expression that both Ilara and Vorthak found disturbing, but for different reasons. No, War Master, Admiral Reyes replied calmly. You made the mistake when you attacked a ship that could call for help. You just never expected who would answer. The transmission ended, leaving the Krell command staff staring at the blank screen. For the first time in his military career, War Master Vorthak felt something unfamiliar, a sensation his species rarely experienced. Fear. Battle stations, Admiral Reyes commanded as the transmission with the Krell War Master ended. The bridge of the Thunderchild erupted into focused activity as crew members moved with practiced efficiency. Tactical analysis of Krell vessels, she asked Lieutenant Commander Raj Patel, tactical officer, reported promptly. Their ships have advanced energy weapons, Admiral, but surprisingly light armor. They seem to rely on speed and shields rather than structural integrity. 12 warships total, with the largest appearing to be their command vessel. Admiral Reyes nodded. Deploy the fleet in Formation Delta. Main battle group will engage their primary vessels. Peregrine and Harrier will target their communications arrays to prevent them from calling reinforcements. She turned to Captain Okafor. Amara, prepare your Marines for boarding action. Priority is rescuing the hostages. Captain Okafor, a tall woman with close-cropped hair and determined eyes, nodded. My team is ready, Admiral. Permission to use the stealth insertion pods? Granted. Launch when ready. As the officers moved to carry out their orders, Admiral Reyes studied the alien fleet on the tactical display. They've never faced humans before, she said quietly to herself. Let's show them why that should worry them. Aboard the Krell command ship, War Master Vorthak issued rapid orders. Launch fighter squadrons, target their largest vessel. His second-in-command approached cautiously. War Master, should we not retreat and call for reinforcements? We know nothing about these humans. Vorthak's mandibles clicked angrily. The Krell Dominion does not retreat. These creatures, whatever they are, have the arrogance to challenge us. They will learn the price of such foolishness. The Krell fleet moved into attack formation, their sleek ships breaking into 3 groups. Swarms of fighter craft poured from their launch bays, racing toward the human vessels. The smaller craft are approaching, War Master, reported the sensor officer. The humans are not launching interceptors. Vorthak watched with satisfaction. They don't understand space combat. Our fighters will. His words died as the human vessels suddenly released a barrage of point defense fire, unlike anything the AO Krell had seen. The intense overlapping fields of energy and projectiles created a deadly net that tore through the incoming fighter swarms. Impossible, gasped the Krell weapons officer. Their targeting systems are processing at speeds we thought unattainable. Vorthak stared in shock as half his fighter force disappeared from the tactical display in less than 30 seconds. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Lieutenant Commander Patel reported. Enemy fighters neutralized, Admiral. Their armor couldn't withstand even our secondary weapons. Admiral Reyes nodded. As we suspected. Now for Phase 2, signal the main battle group to advance. 3 human warships moved forward, their engines flaring bright against the darkness of space. The Krell vessels fired energy beams that splashed against the human ship's shields. Shields holding at 82%, Admiral, reported the defense officer. Their weapons are advanced, but they seem calibrated for targets with much lighter defenses than ours. Return fire. Standard loadout. No need for heavy ordnance yet. The human vessels fired, their energy weapons and projectiles striking the Krell ships with devastating accuracy. Where the Krell weapons had merely damaged the human shields, the human weapons tore through the Krell defenses, exposing their hulls to space. 2 enemy vessels disabled, 3 heavily damaged, Lieutenant Commander Patel announced. They're adjusting their formation. Admiral Reyes studied the tactical display. They're protecting their command ship. Perfect. She opened a channel. To the stealth insertion team. Captain Okafor, you have your opening. Proceed with boarding action. In the launch bay of the Harrier, Captain Amara Okafor and her 12-person Marine team performed final checks on their exo-armor. The sleek black suits enhanced their already formidable human strength and provided protection against vacuum and radiation. Remember, Okafor briefed her team, these aliens evolved in low-gravity environments. They're physically much weaker than humans, use minimal force when engaging hostiles. We don't want to accidentally kill anyone with a light push. Sergeant Rodriguez checked his non-lethal stun weapon. So basically we're space orcs invading their ship? The team chuckled at the reference to ancient human fiction. Something like that. Okafor smiled. But we're the good orcs, here to rescue the crystal people. Now move out. The Marines entered the stealth insertion pods, small black vessels designed to avoid detection. The pods launched silently from the Harrier while the main battle drew the Krell's attention. Commander Ilara Lux and the other Luminari prisoners felt the Krell ship shudder from weapons impacts. The crystalline beings communicated through subtle light patterns, avoiding detection by their guards. Something is happening, Ilara's light patterns conveyed to the others. The ship is under attack. This may be our chance. The Krell guard at their cell door suddenly stiffened, then collapsed to the floor. A strange figure appeared, bipedal but unlike any being the Luminari had ever seen. Its form was encased in dark armor, and it moved with a fluid grace that seemed impossible for its solid-looking structure. The figure removed its helmet, revealing a face with features arranged around forward-facing eyes. Its skin was a deep brown color, and short black hair framed its face. Commander Ilara Lux, the being asked, its translator converting the sounds to the light patterns the Luminari could understand. I'm Captain Amara Okafor, United Defense Force. We received your distress call. Ilara's form pulsed with surprise and relief. You are the ones who answered our signal? You are human? That's right. Captain Okafor nodded. We're here to get you out. Can your people move? We can, though some are damaged, Ilara responded, her light patterns showing both concern and hope. But the Krell, don't worry about them. My team is securing the path to our extraction point. As if to emphasize her point, they heard sounds of brief struggle from the corridor, followed by silence. 2 more armored humans appeared. Corridor clear, Captain, one reported. The Krell weren't expecting anyone to board their ship. Their internal security is minimal. Good work, Okafor replied. She turned back to the Luminari. Stay close to us. We'll have you safe on our ship soon. War Master Vorthak's command center was in chaos. Reports of catastrophic damage came from multiple ships, and now alarms blared from within their own vessel. Intruders on the prisoner level, shouted the security chief. They've neutralized the guards. Impossible, Vorthak roared. No one could have boarded us during battle. The human vessels are approaching again, War Master, the tactical officer reported. Our fighter screen is gone, and 5 of our ships are disabled or destroyed. For the first time in his career, Vorthak considered the possibility of defeat. How could unknown aliens with seemingly primitive designs be overwhelming the finest fleet in the Krell Dominion? His decision was made for him when the ship's primary power system suddenly failed, plunging the command center into darkness. Emergency, lighting activated, casting an eerie glow over the confused Krell officers. What happened? Vorthak demanded. The engineering officer checked his console. Someone accessed our environmental controls. They've adjusted the atmosphere to match their own vessel. The air suddenly felt heavy, pressing down on the Krell's exoskeletons. The oxygen level rose, making their breathing difficult through their adapted respiratory systems. A communication appeared on their main screen. The human admiral again. War Master Vorthak, Admiral Reyes stated calmly, "Your prisoners are now under our protection. Your fleet is disabled. I'm offering you one chance to withdraw what remains of your forces. Otherwise, we will be forced to demonstrate what happens when humans fight at full capacity, which I assure you, we have not yet done." Vorthak, struggling to breathe in the modified atmosphere, knew he had no choice. The humans had defeated his forces with apparently minimal effort, using capabilities the Krell had never seen before. "We will withdraw," he managed to say, mandibles clicking in anger and humiliation. As the transmission ended, Vorthak turned to his second-in-command. "Send a message to the Dominion. Tell them we have encountered something new, something dangerous. The galaxy has changed. Today." The medical bay of the Thunderchild was filled with soft blue light, carefully adjusted to match the Luminari's home environment. Dr. Omar Al-Farsi moved carefully among the crystalline beings, scanning their damaged forms with specialized equipment. Human medical staff assisted him, their movements slow and deliberate around their fragile guests. Commander Ilara Lux's form was gradually regaining its natural luminescence as her injuries healed. She observed the humans with fascination. They were so different from any species the Luminari had encountered. Solid, opaque beings who moved with surprising grace despite their density. "Your body is repairing itself remarkably well," Dr. Al-Farsi told her, studying the readings on his scanner. "Your crystalline structure is quite efficient at self-healing when given the proper energy sources." "We are grateful for your assistance," Ilara's light patterns conveyed through the translation device. "Without your intervention, we would still be Krell prisoners, or worse." Admiral Reyes entered the medical bay, nodding respectfully to the Luminari. "Commander Lux, I'm pleased to see you recovering. I hope you're being treated well." "Your people have been most accommodating," Ilara responded. "Though I must admit, everything about humans is strange to us. Your ship's normal atmosphere would crush us. Your radiation levels would disrupt our molecular structure, and the density of your bodies is unsettling." Admiral Reyes smiled. "We're equally fascinated by you. But more importantly, we need to discuss what happens next. The Krell have withdrawn from this sector, but their War Master sent communications before leaving. They'll likely return with reinforcements." Ilara's light patterns dimmed with concern. "That is troubling news. The Krell Dominion controls vast territories. They can summon a fleet many times larger than the one you defeated." "Then we need to prepare," Admiral Reyes replied. "Can you tell us more about them? And about your own people? Understanding the situation will help us determine the best course of action." In the main conference room, Ilara Lux used the holographic display to share information about the galactic political landscape. The senior human officers watched as star maps expanded to show the territories of various species. "The Luminari conquered is here," Ilara indicated, a cluster of stars glowing softly. "We are philosophers, diplomats, and artists. Our crystalline nature allows us to absorb and manipulate light in ways that create our technology and art." She shifted the display. "The Krell Dominion spans this region. They evolved as hive-minded arthropoids, though they've developed individual consciousness over millions of years. They remain highly hierarchical and expansionist." "Why were they attacking your vessel?" Captain Okafor asked. "Our ship was traveling to a diplomatic summit," Ilara explained. "The Krell have been expanding aggressively, threatening several peaceful species. The summit was to form a defensive alliance, the Zephyrian Concordat." Lieutenant Commander Yamamoto, the chief engineer, studied the Krell ship designs on another display. Their technology is impressive, but limited by their physical evolution. They build for speed and efficiency rather than durability. Could their reinforcements arrive before the Zephyrian allies you were trying to contact? Admiral Reyes inquired. Ilara's light patterns shifted to what the humans recognized as the equivalent of a nod. The Zephyrians were not expecting our distress call. By the time they realize we're missing and investigate, the Krell armada will have arrived. A tense silence fell over the room. So we're outnumbered, in unknown territory, with a potentially massive hostile force incoming, summarized Captain Okafor. Sounds like a typical Tuesday for the UDF. Admiral Reyes allowed herself a small smile at the captain's humor. We need options, people. The Krell may have numbers, but they've never faced humans before. That's our advantage. Lieutenant Commander Yamamoto raised his hand. Admiral, I've been studying the captured Krell vessel. Their environmental systems are critically important to them, much more so than for us humans. They can't tolerate variations that we consider minor. Explain, Admiral Reyes prompted. Humans evolved on a planet with extreme environmental variations, Yamamoto continued, enthusiasm growing in his voice. We can function in temperatures from below freezing to desert heat. We can tolerate significant pressure changes, radiation exposure, and atmospheric variations. The Krell cannot. Dr. Al-Farsi nodded in understanding. That's why adjusting their ship's atmosphere was so effective. Even small changes were debilitating to them. Can we weaponize this somehow? Admiral Reyes asked. Yamamoto's eyes lit up. Absolutely, Admiral. If we modify the captured Krell vessels, we could create what I'd call environmental disruptors, devices that create localized atmospheric and radiation shifts that would incapacitate the Krell while leaving humans functional. That's thinking like a Deathworlder, Captain Okafor said with approval. Use our evolutionary adaptations as weapons. Lieutenant Maya Patel, the tactical specialist who had been quietly listening, spoke up. There's a psychological component we should consider as well. The Krell have evolved as apex predators without natural enemies. They've never developed the prey's instinct for detecting traps. What are you suggesting, Lieutenant? Admiral Reyes asked. Psychological warfare, Admiral, Patel replied. The Krell think like predators, direct, aggressive, overwhelming. But humans, we've been both predator and prey throughout our evolution. We understand how to set traps, create diversions, use misdirection. Admiral Reyes considered these suggestions, then nodded decisively. Let's put it all together. We'll use our understanding of both species' evolutionary traits to create a defensive strategy. Commander Yamamoto, begin modifications on the captured vessels. Lieutenant Patel, develop a tactical plan that exploits Krell psychology. Dr. Al-Farsi, work with the Luminari to ensure we understand all biological factors. She turned to Ilara. Commander Lux will need to contact the Zephyrians as well. Perhaps we can accelerate their response. Ilara's form pulsed with hesitation. Admiral, there is something you should understand. Even if the Zephyrians arrive, they are similar to us. Evolved in controlled environments, they've never encountered Deathworlders like humans before. Are you saying they might fear us as much as they fear the Krell? Admiral Reyes asked. Perhaps not fear, but certainly uncertainty, Ilara responded. Your species' capabilities are unknown in our region of space. The way you casually withstand conditions that would kill most of us is disturbing to contemplate. Admiral, Reyes considered this. Then we need to show that humans can be trusted, that Deathworlders can be protectors as well as warriors. She stood up, addressing her officers. We have work to do, people. The Krell believe their numerical advantage ensures victory. Let's show them that quality can overcome quantity, especially when that quality is human ingenuity. As the meeting disbanded, the sensor officer rushed in. Admiral, long-range sensors have detected multiple FTL signatures. A large fleet is approaching. From their configuration, it's the Krell, and they've brought an armada. On the display, dozens of Krell warships appeared, led by a massive flagship unlike anything they'd seen before. The human officers exchanged glances. Their time for preparation had just run out. "Battle stations," Admiral Reyes ordered calmly. "Let's show the galaxy what happens when you corner a species that evolved on a death world." The main bridge of the Thunderchild was a center of controlled urgency as Admiral Reyes studied the tactical display. The approaching Krell armada vastly outnumbered their small fleet, over 30 warships led by a massive flagship. "Time to intercept?" Admiral Reyes asked. 40 minutes, Admiral," Lieutenant Santos replied from the navigation station. Lieutenant Commander Patel at Tactical added, "Preliminary scans show their flagship is at least 3 times the size of anything we faced in the previous encounter. Energy readings suggest significantly more powerful weapons." Admiral Reyes nodded calmly. "Status of Yamamoto's environmental disruptors?" "He reports the modifications to the captured Krell vessels are complete," Captain Okafor answered. "The engineering team has deployed them at the coordinates you specified." "Good." Admiral Reyes turned to address the bridge crew. "The Krell are expecting a conventional battle. They think their superior numbers guarantee victory. But humanity didn't survive on Earth by fighting fair. We survived by adapting, by turning our harsh environment into an advantage." She pointed to the tactical display. "Deploy the fleet in scattered formation. Maintain communication silence except for emergency channels. Each ship captain has their orders. Execute Operation Thunderstorm." The human vessels began moving into position, spreading out across a wide area of space rather than forming a traditional defensive line. To the approaching Krell armada, it appeared as if the human ships were retreating in disarray. Aboard the Krell flagship Dominion's Might, Supreme War Leader Gaxthar observed the human fleet's movement with satisfaction. His massive form dwarfed the other Krell officers, his exoskeleton bearing the ornate markings of countless victories. "They scatter before our might," he clicked to his command staff. "These humans defeated War Master Vorthak through surprise alone. Now they see our true strength and flee." The tactical officer approached cautiously. "Supreme War Leader, the behavior of the human vessels is unusual. They maintain a formation that has no defensive value." "They have no formation at all?" Gaxthar, "Dismissed. They are panicking. Order the fleet to advance and destroy them one by one." "As you command, Supreme War Leader." The Krell armada accelerated toward the seemingly retreating human ships, their formation tightening into attack clusters designed to overwhelm individual targets with concentrated firepower. On the Thunderchild, Admiral Reyes watched the Krell fleets approach. "They've taken the bait. Begin Phase 1. Throughout the sector, the modified Krell vessels that Yamamoto's team had converted into environmental disruptors activated simultaneously. Unlike conventional weapons that targeted ships directly, these devices affected space itself, creating pockets of intense radiation, atmospheric turbulence, and gravitational fluctuations. To a human vessel, these environmental changes were uncomfortable, but manageable. To the Krell, whose ships were designed for the stable conditions of their evolutionary history, the effects were devastating. Ship systems began failing as radiation interfered with sensitive electronics. Environmental controls struggled against atmospheric contaminants that human bodies processed naturally, but which overwhelmed Krell filtration systems. "Environmental disruptors functioning at 100% effectiveness," reported the science officer. "The Krell fleet is showing signs of system degradation." Admiral Reyes nodded. "Now for Phase 2, signal the Peregrine and Harrier." The Krell flagship pushed through the environmental disturbances, its size and advanced shielding providing more protection than the smaller vessels. War Leader Gaxthar raged as reports of system failures came in from throughout his fleet. "What trickery is this?" he demanded. "These are not natural phenomena." His science officer's mandibles clicked nervously. "The humans have somehow weaponized environmental conditions, War Leader. They're creating localized storms of radiation and gravitational disturbances." "Impossible!" Gaxthar slammed his armored limb down. "No species can control such forces." "They're not controlling them," the science officer explained. "They're creating them. And more importantly, their ships are functioning in conditions that are crippling ours. Before Gaxthar could respond, the tactical officer called out, "Small craft approaching. Too small for our automated defenses to target effectively." Throughout the Krell formation, 24 tiny vessels appeared, human boarding craft, each carrying a small team of Marines in specialized environmental suits. While the Krell ships struggled with the artificial environmental storms, the human craft attached to their hulls like parasites, cutting through with advanced tools designed for the purpose. Captain Amara Okafor led the primary boarding team toward the Krell flagship. Unlike the previous mission, this one wasn't about rescue, it was about sowing chaos. Her team wore special tactical suits that Yamamoto had created specifically for this mission, incorporating elements designed to unnerve the Krell. "Remember," she told her team over the comm, "psychological impact is as important as physical damage. Use the suit features as instructed." The Marines cut through the outer hull of the flagship and entered through the breach. Immediately, their suits began releasing compounds into the Krell ship's atmosphere, microorganisms that were harmless to humans but disruptive to Krell biology. The microscopic passengers that humans naturally carried with them, bacteria and other microbes, became weapons simply by existing in the Krell environment. As the Marines moved through the corridors, Krell security forces confronted them. The arthropoid warriors fired energy weapons that the humans dodged with surprising agility. Their muscles evolved under Earth's higher gravity, giving them reaction speeds the Krell couldn't match. Rather than killing the Krell guards, the Marines used non-lethal tactics, incapacitating rather than destroying. This approach confused the Krell even more than death would have, as it contradicted their understanding of warfare. Captain Okafor led her team toward the Environmental Control Center. "Almost there," she reported through her comm to the Thunderchild. "Ready to execute Phase 3. Admiral Reyes watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. The environmental disruptors had broken the Krell formation, rendering their numerical advantage meaningless as ships struggled individually rather than functioning as a coordinated fleet. The boarding teams had successfully infiltrated 20 Krell vessels, including the flagship. "The Krell are adapting to our environmental attacks," Lieutenant Commander Patel reported. "Their larger vessels are adjusting shields to compensate." As expected, Admiral Reyes nodded. "Time for Phase 3. Signal all ships to execute the Thunderclap maneuver." The scattered human vessels suddenly changed course, converging toward the fragmented Krell fleet from multiple directions. While the Krell had been focused on the environmental anomalies and boarding parties, the human ships had been positioning for this coordinated strike. On the Krell flagship, Captain Okafor's team reached the Environmental Control Center. "We're in position, Admiral," she reported. "Execute," came the simple reply. The Marines connected a device of Yamamoto's design to the flagship's environmental systems. Rather than destroying the controls, they simply adjusted them, increasing oxygen levels, atmospheric pressure, and humidity to what humans would consider normal Earth conditions. For the Krell, evolved in their low gravity, carefully regulated homeworld, these changes were immediately debilitating. Throughout the flagship, Krell officers and crew found themselves struggling to breathe in the oxygen-rich air, their exoskeletons straining under the increased pressure. In the command center, Supreme War Leader Gaxthar fought to remain conscious as the altered atmosphere overwhelmed his biological systems. The tactical displays showed his mighty armada in disarray, outmaneuvered by a numerically inferior force using tactics no Krell strategist had ever conceived. A communication appeared on the main screen. Admiral Reyes, looking completely comfortable, in conditions that were slowly incapacitating the Krell commander. "Supreme War Leader," she said calmly, "your fleet is disabled. Your flagship is under our control. I'm offering you one final opportunity to withdraw from this sector permanently. Otherwise, we will be forced to demonstrate what happens when humans actually intend to destroy their opponents rather than simply defeat them." Gaxthar, struggling to remain standing, realized the terrible truth. They had grossly underestimated these humans. Their ability to function in conditions the Krell found lethal, their unpredictable tactics, their use of the environment itself as a weapon, all pointed to one inescapable conclusion. They had awakened a sleeping giant. A species evolved in conditions so harsh that the Krell could barely comprehend it, yet who had developed not just technology but a form of warfare the Krell had never imagined. "We accept your terms," Gaxthar managed to say, his proud warrior, heritage giving way to the biological reality of facing an evolutionary superior. "The Krell Dominion will withdraw." As the human Marines returned to their vessels and the Krell armada limped away, Admiral Reyes allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had just announced its presence to the galaxy, not through conquest but by protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. 1 week after the battle with the Krell armada, the UDF Thunderchild hosted an unprecedented gathering. The ship's largest conference room had been carefully modified to accommodate beings from multiple species. Environmental controls created distinct zones with different atmospheric conditions, gravity settings, and radiation shielding. Admiral Helena Reyes stood near the center, watching as representatives from 6 different species mingled cautiously. The Luminari delegation, led by Commander Alara Lux, shimmered with light patterns expressing excitement and curiosity. They were speaking with tall, feathered beings that Admiral Reyes now knew were Zephyrians, who had arrived 3 days after the battle. "Quite the gathering," Dr. Al-Farsi commented as he joined the Admiral. "The first multi-species diplomatic conference hosted by humans." Admiral Reyes nodded. "And probably the most diverse group of species ever assembled in one room, according to Ambassador Cathal." The Zephyrian ambassador in question was a striking figure, nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent blue-green feathers and 4 slender arms. Like the Luminari, the Zephyrians had evolved in a low-gravity environment, but their adaptations had taken a different path, resulting in hollow bones and a respiratory system that seemed impossibly efficient to human biologists. "I still can't believe they've designated Earth as a Class 5 death world," Dr. Al-Farsi chuckled. "Apparently our home is theoretically too hostile to produce spacefaring life." "Yet here we are," Admiral Reyes said with a hint of pride. "The impossible Deathworlders who answered a call for help." Ambassador Cathal noticed their conversation and gracefully glided over, his movements precise in the artificially lowered gravity of his environmental zone. "Admiral Reyes," the Zephyrian's translator conveyed his melodic speech into English, "I must express again the gratitude of the Concordat. Your intervention has altered the balance of power in this sector in ways we're still calculating." "We simply responded to a distress call, Ambassador," Admiral Reyes replied modestly. "Any decent spacefaring civilization would do the same." Cathal's head tilted in what Dr. Al-Farsi had learned was an expression of thoughtful disagreement. "That assumption reveals much about human values, Admiral. In truth, many species would not risk themselves for strangers. The Krell certainly wouldn't. Most civilizations that reach the stars do so through careful conservation of resources and avoidance of risk." "Perhaps that's the difference," Dr. Al-Farsi suggested. "Earth's history forced us to take risks just to survive. When your homeworld is constantly trying to kill you with earthquakes, hurricanes, and predators, you develop a different relationship with danger." Ambassador Cathal's feathers rippled in what humans now recognized as amusement. "Indeed, we've long theorized that Deathworld species might exist, but we believed the evolutionary pressures would make them too aggressive to form stable civilizations. We assumed any species evolving in such conditions would destroy themselves before achieving spaceflight. We came close a few times," Admiral Reyes admitted. "But we survived by learning to cooperate. On Earth, our harshest environments often produce the strongest communities." Commander Alara Lux joined their conversation, her crystalline form pulsing with bright patterns. "That is the paradox of humans that fascinates us most. You evolved with predatory capabilities, yet developed extraordinary empathy. You can fight with devastating effectiveness, yet you choose to protect rather than conquer." "Not always," Admiral Reyes said honestly. "Human history has plenty of conquerors, but we've learned some hard lessons along the way." The ship's communication system chimed softly, and Lieutenant Commander Patel's voice came through. "Admiral, the Galactic Council representatives have arrived. Their ship is requesting docking clearance. Grant it, Admiral Reyes replied. She turned to the gathered aliens. It seems the final delegates have arrived. Cathal's feathers flattened slightly, and what humans had learned indicated surprise. The Council is sending observers? This is unprecedented. They rarely intervene in regional matters. Apparently, defeating a Krell armada gets their attention, Dr. Al-Farsi remarked. An hour later, the conference room was even more crowded. The Galactic Council representatives, tall, willowy beings, with silvery skin and six-fingered hands, occupied a special environmental zone of their own. Their species, the Arcanians, were among the oldest spacefaring civilizations, with technology that seemed almost magical to younger races. The lead council representative, Delegate Thalon, addressed the gathering with a voice that somehow conveyed both great age and clarity. This meeting is historic, the translator rendered his complex language. Not merely because it represents first contact between humanity and the established galactic community, but because of what happened here. The defeat of a Krell armada by a numerically inferior force has upset centuries of strategic balance. Murmurs spread through the room as various translation devices conveyed his words. More significant still, Thalon continued, is how this victory was achieved. Not through superior firepower, but through adaptation and innovation. The humans used their unique evolutionary history, what others might consider disadvantages, as decisive tactical advantages. Admiral Reyes listened carefully, aware that this moment would shape humanity's future in the galactic community. The Council has long monitored developing worlds, Thalon explained. Earth was classified as a probable technological dead end due to its extreme conditions. We believed no species could survive such an environment long enough to develop advanced technology without destroying themselves. The delegate's silvery face turned toward Admiral Reyes. We were wrong, and now we must reconsider many assumptions. Commander, Alara Lux moved forward, her crystalline form catching the light. If I may, Delegate Thalon, what happened here was more than just a military victory. The humans responded to a distress call not meant for them, risking their lives for strangers. That speaks to character, not just capability. Admiral Reyes took this opportunity to address the gathering. Earth is still new to the galactic community. We have much to learn about your civilizations, your histories, and your technologies. But if there's one thing we bring to this gathering, it's a different perspective. She looked around at the diverse alien forms. Where you see harsh conditions, we see our home. Where you see deadly radiation, we see the light that nourishes our world. Where you see insurmountable challenges, we see opportunities to adapt and overcome. Perhaps that's humanity's gift to the galaxy, not our strength or our technology, but our perspective. Ambassador Cathal stepped forward. The Zephyrian Concordat proposes a formal alliance with Earth and humanity, not merely for defense against threats like the Krell, but for the exchange of knowledge and culture. Other species representatives quickly voiced their support, creating a cacophony of translated voices. Delegate Thalon raised a six-fingered hand for silence. The Council recognizes these bilateral arrangements. Moreover, we extend an invitation to Earth to send a permanent representative to the Galactic Council itself. It seems the perspective of Deathworlders would be valuable in our deliberations. As the gathering erupted in excited discussion, Admiral Reyes found herself standing beside Commander Alara Lux. None of this would have happened if your distress call hadn't reached us by accident, Reyes said quietly. Alara's form pulsed with what humans now recognized as the Luminari equivalent of a smile. Perhaps it wasn't entirely an accident. The universe has its own way of bringing together those who need to meet. Before Admiral Reyes could respond, Lieutenant Commander Wei Chen, the officer who had first detected the Luminari distress call, approached urgently. Admiral, he said, I apologize for the interruption, but we're receiving another distress signal from a system near the Krell border. It's specifically addressed to the Deathworlders of Earth. The room fell silent as translations of his words reached the various delegations. Admiral Reyes looked around at the gathered representatives of the galactic community. then at her own officers who stood ready for her command. In the span of a few weeks, humanity had gone from unknown newcomers to the protectors of an entire sector. "Well," she said with a small smile, "it seems our reputation precedes us." She turned to her officers. "Prepare the fleet. Someone needs our help." As the human officers moved to carry out her orders, the alien representatives watched with new understanding. They had witnessed something remarkable, a species tempered in the harsh crucible of a death world who emerged not as conquerors, but as guardians. The Deathworlders had arrived on the galactic stage, and the universe would never be the same.